Ever had one of those moments where your kid spills something and you go completely bananas on them? Like you act like it is the end of the world or the biggest emergency has just happened. And the thing is, you actually love them. You don't want to do it. You recognize that something's off, but you're still going because almost like you can't control it. Probably emotionally exhausted. Hi, I'm Sharonda and welcome back to Grace for the Journey. I'm so happy to have you joining us today. And today we are going to be talking about signs that you are probably emotionally exhausted. So in the last episode titled, It is Not an Emergency, Hold Your Peace, we spoke about how sometimes we can be responding to things as if it was an emergency, always in a heightened state, always more exaggerated than it needs to be. And one of the reasons that can actually happen is because we can be emotionally exhausted, otherwise known as burnt out. And so today we're going to be discussing a few signs that would tell you that, hey, you know what? Maybe you do need to just chill a bit, take some rest because you are emotionally exhausted. And this type of tiredness isn't just physically being tired. There's different levels to this. There's different forms of being tired, different forms of rest. But when we talk about emotional exhaustion, it talks about having the capacity to carry what you're carrying plus more, not having the capacity to deal with anybody else's drama, anybody else's stress. It could be the thin line between being sane and literally switching over. It could be the thin line between everything just being normal and fine and one incident can literally tip you over the edge. And one of the first signs I'll talk about is what we talked about in the last episode with everything feeling urgent, everything feeling like it needs to be dealt with right now, right in this moment. There are actual emergencies. There are things that require you to drop everything and run. There are things that need your attention now. But like I said last time, not everything does. And when we find ourselves responding to everything in that heightened voice, heightened stress level, just heightened everything, it could possibly be one of the signs that, you are a little over the edge and maybe it's time to pull back a bit and take a rest. So for instance, the example I gave just a while ago, your kid spills something. We know it's an accident. We know they're kids. We know that they make mistakes. We spill things as adults. We have accidents. We have big accidents, sometimes accidents that cost us more money than they should. We think of a car accident. It is what it is. It's an accident. Now, some accidents can be avoided, but sometimes some of the reasons it happens is because we are not self-aware that we should have pulled back a while ago. We should have taken some time to reset a while ago because we are just emotionally done. We're emotionally done because perhaps we are carrying our own stress. Maybe we are also carrying our family's stress. Maybe work is a little bit complicated right now. Just there's life literally can be really stressful, and taking time to be self-aware and really check your state to see, hey, can I actually handle this phone call right now? Can I, this person, I know when they call me, they're gonna dump on me. Can I handle another trauma dump from a person who I dearly love, but can I handle it right at this moment? Or are my emotions right now too heightened and I need to wait, rest, and regulate first before I go and take that on? Because you taking that on could be literally the switch that you don't need that could send you over the edge, God forbid. So everything shouldn't actually feel urgent. We should be able to pause, breathe, and think before we actually make a decision and move. But when we find ourselves literally moving before we think about what is happening, or just always moving so fast, usually there's some other things that's going on. Something happened yesterday. I had filled out a form for my daughter for something, and I found out later, like months later, that I had put my birthday and her birth year, and then it ended up affecting something else because it was the wrong birthday. And that's not the first time I've done that. I'm always filling out forms. I'm usually doing it in a hurry. I'm usually doing it in a rush, usually because I waited till the last minute. So It's a mistake, yes. It's an accident, yes, but it's something that could have been avoided had I checked myself first and probably done it in a more relaxed environment that I'm intentionally now trying to create for myself. But before, it's always just this has to be done, this has to be done, get this done, and everything is usually being done boom, 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 boom. Not a lot of thought process going into it, a lot of mistakes being made because at this point, it probably has become an emergency because I procrastinated. But that is filling out a form, unless, God forbid, you're at a hospital or something, should really not be an emergency. So I should not be operating that quickly and that urgent if I make the proper, if I put the proper systems in place first so that I cannot be always at this heightened point. So that's our number one thing. If everything feels like the roof is on fire, then there's something else that's on fire somewhere that needs to be probably looked into and sorted out regarding our emotions or just regulating that and getting us back into a calm and quiet state. Okay, this is one that probably everybody, no matter your age, I think, can probably relate to. Everything triggers you or anything. The smallest things feel so big. And that we can piggyback off the example I just gave with, your kid spilled some milk or spilled some food. You spill food, what do? You wipe it up, you clean it up. Is it really that big of a deal? Like, is it really that serious? Probably not. But when we find that small things are triggering us and like setting the pace for our entire day, messing up our entire day, changing the outcome of what a great day should be for us, we are probably emotionally exhausted. So there are always going to be problems. There are always going to be problems in life. And I just heard a sermon about this actually. And there are small problems and there are big problems. And some things are not even a problem, but we make it into a problem because we're probably being triggered because we're just so tired. We're just so emotionally drained. Some things that are considered minor problems have like blown up into the biggest thing in our minds and our world. And sometimes we don't understand it until we actually sit with somebody and they can be objective and be like, hey, you know what? If you just do X, Y, and Z, that'll solve that. And then you realize, yeah, that wasn't that serious at all. Like, why was my response so intense to that? Why did I react so intense to that? Like I said, there are so much other things that can cause those reactions, but one of the major ones is like when your emotions are just not in control, when you're not in control anymore of your emotions because you're so burnt out. This is something that can cause you to be triggered by anything. Somebody could just say hi to you, but because you have so much going on in your mind, the way they just simply said hi quietly, you heard something else, you heard it in a whole different tone. You feel like they gave you a whole attitude because of the way you think they looked at you and they were only just saying hi. And going a little deeper with that, sometimes when we have some personal situations going on and we have some, let's call it let's call it unhealed trauma that's sitting really deep or even at the surface, somebody could say something and it could become a big thing. And as a married woman, I know if I'm completely transparent and open about it, this is something that can happen quite a bit, even in marriages, because you have a perception of your spouse, they have a perception of you, you live close together, so you see all the flaws, you see all the things, and then they could say something, they mean something completely different by it. And when you hear it, and when you hear them, you think they're talking about something else because of your thought process and because of maybe some trauma that you have been going through. And that's something that happened very recently with me as well. Like my husband had said something and I heard something completely different. It went in a whole next direction. And I didn't think I was emotionally drained. I didn't think at that point I was burnt out. I was feeling good, but it had to do with my emotions not actually being regulated regarding a particular thing, right? So there is some work that we have to do as individuals to make sure that we're not blowing things up into proportion and making problems out of nothing and creating extra stress. Like I said in the last episode too, like stress is the same. So if I think that this situation is so big and so grand, and it's really not, the same way our body will be responding in like go mode for a real emergency is the same way it's going to respond just because we perceive something is that serious and it's really not that serious. And maybe in another episode, I'll talk a bit deeper from my massage background about how the body actually reacts to stress. Because the body needs stress. We need a little bit of stress to get things done, but it's meant to be short term. And a lot of people are living in chronic stress and living in that heightened state. And yeah, I digress, but we'll come back to that in another episode. So yeah, when things trigger you that are small and it triggers you in a it's magnified, that is probably another sign that you are emotionally exhausted. Let's talk a little bit about mental fog. So sometimes because you are just emotionally not present or there's so many things that are going on that needs to be resolved in your life, sometimes you just can't think straight. You literally can't think straight. The simplest decisions can become so hard and so complicated, and you just can't see the way out because of mental fog. So this way this body is created and connected is just so amazing to me because one thing plays off the other thing. It is so now are we always going to be perfect and in the perfect state? Not necessarily. But it is so important to work towards overall wellness because of these type of situations. So because your emotions are like you're just off and you're just drained and exhausted, haven't had time to deal with whatever's going on in your life or whoever you're responsible's life or your friend's life, because you haven't had time to process that properly and deal with it. Like it can literally carry over to mental fog, just not knowing, just not remembering things, not knowing how to do something that you know how to do, not being able to solve a problem. Like everything just starts to look like algebra with letters and numbers mixed together. And within yourself, no, this is something I can handle. I've done this before. I've done this a million times over. Like, what is going on? Like, what is this? Why can't I think straight? That is also a huge sign of being emotionally burnt out, emotionally just needing to check out for a bit and come back later. Because we are an intelligent people and we are created to solve problems. we our minds are the mind is just such a beautiful thing. So when something is causing the mind that God created for us not to work in the way it was meant to work and blocking us and making us not look intelligent, that thing should be looked into. That thing should be dealt with. Okay, so this is a big one for my introverts. My introverts. You withdraw from people and you say you're taking some time for yourself, you say you are retreating, you say what all the things that sound great. Now, I am all for retreats. I am all for self-time. I am all for time by yourself. Like that is me. I am all for it. We all need our space. We all need our time alone. Yes, we are created, we're built for community, but we definitely still need our time alone. However, there's a difference in withdrawing and not dealing with your problems, just withdrawing because you just can't handle it anymore, and actually taking time to rest, reset, and actively and intentionally going to deal with whatever's going on. So I'm referring to the withdrawing from people where people just don't see you no more. You don't show up no more because you just can't. You just can't. And I'm sure we've all been there where I just can't. I can't deal. I don't have another ounce to give. I don't have another thing. I don't have another ear to listen. I don't have it. But we just withdraw without explanation, withdraw without intention, without we're not even thinking about how we are going to deal with the way we feel. We just leave. We just ghost everybody because we can't deal with it. We can't deal with them. So it's a thin line, it's borderline. Like I said, there is a time where you gotta go, you gotta reset, you gotta leave the world, and go and be by yourself, go in the wilderness and have your time, have your retreat, have your reset time, whatever it looks like for you. But that's a difference from just nobody's seen you. Nobody know where you are. Nobody's seen you just because you just can't. And that just can't stage is a very dangerous place to be in because the smallest thing, like we said already, the smallest thing can tip a person over the edge when they get to that point. And so it's better to recognize and be like self aware that, hey, something is off with me. Maybe tell one person that you trust, I just need a day or two, or I need to go away for a week. Check on me this time, or I'm going to go get a massage. I'm going for a walk, whatever it is. Do what you need to do with your personal time and your personal space, but don't just disappear and nobody knows what's going on. Don't just disappear and not intentionally go and try to figure out what's going on. Don't just disappear and not like your intentions is not to heal. You literally just gonna go and try to forget about everything that's happening around you. That is a dangerous part. So, yes, take time for yourself, but don't just withdraw without intentions to get better or without intentions to seek and find out what is going on. And so, this one is one that, depending on your faith and your beliefs, you can feel kind of guilty. Um, Emotional exhaustion can also bring across spiritual distance. So I'll speak personally from me. There are times when I've been just so done. I don't want to talk to God. I don't want anybody to talk to me about God. I don't have like my mouth wasn't open to be grateful, to pray, to do any of that. It has been it has been that extreme before. I just feel like you feel heavy. You feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Nothing is going right. There's nothing to be grateful for. Just feels so heavy, and it's almost like your faith becomes really shaky, or you can start to question it, and you just feel distant. Like, God, where are you? Are you even out there? And now this one could be very, very, very dangerous. And this is where community comes into play big time, because you have to have people who know you and who know when something is off. And when if you get to the point of now you are withdrawing, like we spoke about, and now you feel spiritually distant and you have nobody who you can call family, friend, community, nothing around you, nobody to recognize that, hey, something is going on with my sister over here. That is where that could be a very serious thing. Nobody to pull you back in, rein you back in, because there are times that you do get to that point, and you need somebody else's strength to carry you, someone else's faith to help push you, somebody belief in you that you can keep going, depending on how heavy you're feeling. But that spiritual distance, there's something I learned years back, and I still hold on to it, and I say, when it feels like, how do I say it? When God feels like he cannot be trusted, that's the one time you need to trust him. And in that, when you're feeling spiritually distant, you're not, let's be real, you're not thinking about trusting nobody. You just feel like what is it? Like, why am I doing this? What is the point in this? Like, what is happening? So because of that, and because of the consequences that can come out of that, because remember, God is always there. He's there, and sometimes it's us who pull ourselves away. Sometimes he's quiet, sometimes he's there and quiet, but he promises to always be with us and never forsake us. But sometimes when things happen and things play out, we don't feel that connection. We're not feeling it, and we know that. Even though we know that the connection is not based on the feeling, sometimes that's just where you at right then in that moment. Let's just be for real. You're not thinking logically. your feelings have taken over because you're emotionally exhausted. So whatever you feel, you believe that this is what it is. And so when you get to that state, it can be very dangerous because you could tend to pull away and start to dabble and do all the things that you don't do anymore, or do it something that could be detrimental to your future and all the likes. And so it is in our best interest to really try to be self-aware of many things. But today we're talking about our emotions, and when we are getting to that point of burnout and emotional exhaustion, so that we can ensure that we still have that, we still feel that connection, so that we can ensure that we're not withdrawing and we're not pulling ourselves away from the source that actually feeds us, and pulling ourselves away from the people and the community around us that actually is there to help us and help lift us. And that we're not freaking out and exaggerating, making the small expected mistakes of our children to look like the worst thing in the world. They say hurt people, and I repeat that a lot. But imagine a child thinking that because they made a mess, that they're a failure because their mom freaked out on them. And I mean, come on, it's gonna happen once or twice, but we're talking about that ongoing arguing and what's the word I want? Correction and ongoing harsh responses because of a small mistake, and then this child, God forbid, grows up with that mentality that if somebody makes a mistake, I just freak out on them, and it's just this cycle that needs to be broken. And so it is very important that we are aware. Not all the time we know right away how to fix it. Because sometimes we think sleep is going to fix the problems. So don't be sleep all the time. That fixes the problem. But just that awareness alone helps. That's the first step. Being aware that, hey, you know what? I actually don't have the capacity for this. I don't have the capacity to take this call. I actually do need some time alone. And sharing that with whoever needs to hear that. I don't know if it's a therapist, if it's a best friend, if it's a spouse, whoever it is, sharing that information and taking the right steps to take some time for yourself, to rest, whatever the type of rest means, to go to therapy, to offload, whatever it is that you are going to do to get your emotions in check, I guess I'll say. And for some people, they don't even need all that. They just need to, like, hey, let me get myself together. Like, it's quick, and everyone is different. So I don't want to say, well, do this, do that. In another episode, we could talk about some things you can try, but everyone is different. And some people it takes much longer, and some people they're built for it. So it's quick and easy for them to just regulate their emotions. They are able to quickly separate their emotions from someone else's emotions, from the reality. They can do this in their sleep. And then some people, it's harder to be like, hey, is this my emotions? What is happening? Is this somebody else's emotion? Like, it may take a little longer. But wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you wherever you are, I guess, in your healing journey, wherever you are in your self-awareness journey, being aware and emotionally regulated and not being emotionally exhausted is going to be huge. It's going to be huge in making sure that you succeed in many other areas of your life. Because the goal is to be successful. The goal is always to fulfill destiny. The goal is always to get to your destination. And like I said, the body is just created in this wonderful way where it just meshes. It all meshes together. So when the finger is hurting, it could affect the toe. When the toe is hurting, it could affect the ears in different ways. So when we think about our overall well-being, and think about mental, emotional, physical, all of that, we want to make sure as much as possible, that we are putting energy and effort into doing our part. We can't do everything. There's a part that we have to play to make sure that we are whole, to make sure that we are operating at our optimum. And so that is the message I want to leave you with today. Let's get our emotions in check. Let's do our best to stay emotionally regulated. And when it's a bad day or when things happen, let's do whatever is necessary to get ourselves back on track. All right. So if this has blessed you in any way, be sure to share it, be sure to like, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see when the next episode is coming out. All right, guys, bye for now. Love you. Remember, you are definitely graced for your journey.